Welcome to the TrueMindShifters channel. In this channel, we share true stories about fear, shame, and guilt, and they're true about our own life so that you don't feel alone and you can join us on our own journey as we pursue our happiest selves. In this conversation, we are honored to have two incredible catalysts, and they are going to talk with us about the power of leadership. If you like this topic, please like, subscribe, and share with others. We have with us today from Core Coaching and Consulting, Sharon and Bonnie. Sharon is the founder and Bonnie is her partner. I'm thoroughly thrilled to start digging into this conversation about leadership. Leadership is one of my passions from my career. I continue to support people in leadership development today. And what I love about leadership is that we can lead both at home and at work and in so many levels. And it's definitely, I see it as an inside out job, which is an incredible aligning principle that Sharon and Bonnie both share. So let's share a little bit more about who you both are. Sharon, tell us a little bit about who you are and what inspired you to establish this incredible organization.
I'm here speaking to you in the Boston area, North Shore of Boston. I started Core Coaching and Consulting. Gosh, Bonnie, how it's been a few years ago, and before that, we've been working together,
4 years.
doing doing the same kind of work, but formally put the LLC together with people in Europe and the U.S. So we have people around the world that we are training to do this methodology, this inside-out leadership methodology. I myself have a background as the CEO of a group health plan, and have been in leadership for, I guess, all my life, and also starting organizations all my life. You know, I'm a good boss, so I like to work for myself. And so you wind up, like most entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, forming your own organizations. And we're very excited about this work and the international aspect of this work, and the fact that it works across leaders and then just people in their regular lives and youth. And so how we can help people change their lives from the inside out and have a better effect on the people around them. As I say, you're either a blessing or a curse, and you're doing it right now. So let's try to make this better for everybody. That's the way we try to roll. Hey, Bonnie, you take it from there.
Well, I was going to say one of the things that inspired me to join Core Coaching and Consulting is that I actually am a product of the work. I I had taken on several other coaching methodologies in the past, and I had my biggest transformations in working with Sharon. And I decided that I really loved the methodology of the balancing act, which Sharon has put many years into in developing. And we even have assessments where you can assess where you're at. We have leadership strength scale, the career strength scale. So it's really measurable. Your progress is really measurable. And that's what really inspired me. Like I said, I was coaching a number of different audiences, and I wanted to expand into working with individuals and corporations. I had worked with prisoners in Massachusetts. I had worked with tech entrepreneurs as well. And I really wanted to, just loved Sharon's message and what she was all about. And that's why
And
I'm here.
here we are, right?
And
Excellent.
here we are. Thank you both so very much for seeing the value in what Marina and I are attempting to do with this channel. And by the way, she is missed today. As always, I miss her when she's not with me. I know that she would probe and ask questions. I'll do my very best to channel Marina. She asks really important questions that help get to, why things happen and how they happen, because she's a very thoughtful leader herself. So I'll be doing that today.
For the listeners, she's cleaning up after Milton.
My thoughts are with her, and I send her always good thoughts around the recovery efforts, and hopefully that she and her neighbors will be very with power again very soon. So, Sharon, you started this organization, and it's about leadership. So maybe you can back up a little bit and And you mentioned that you've been a lifelong leader. So tell me about your earliest memories of shaping what leadership looks like, and maybe include some parts that weren't so great.
My family would tell you that I was always a leader, or maybe they would say just plain bossy as the first child. And I remember at one point we wanted to have a horse. And so I organized a demonstration of the rest of the children. And so we marched through.
No way. It's
Yeah,
so fun.
political day started very, very early, and I'll be damned, we got the horse. What can I say? So, so I was encouraged to do that, and then I, went on. My education is in psychology and in music, and I went on to become, political organizer in campaigns, and then in sort of political organizations. So I ran a family planning center. We were successful in terms of when those were under onslaught. Started a group health plan, and that established an industry record for earliest break even that has never been broken. Okay, so we really just stumbled into doing it right. What I can say is we just kind of walked along, followed our best instincts, and my style, of course, as Bonnie can probably attest, is we need everybody on deck. Everybody give us your best stuff. And I had everyone who was in the health center. So the nurses were in charge of the nursing, the doctors were in charge of the physicians, and the medical records people. Don't tread on me. They were in charge of all their stuff. And I organized what we would call a hub system. And in many ways, that's still what we're doing today, right? So from the center's work is to facilitate everybody else's work. So at the hub, we have to make sure everybody has what they need and they're taking care of, in this case, our patients. And like I said, it was incredibly successful. Then I went on to do this work over time, working at really about power. How is it that people have power? What kind of power do people have? And so over time, it's evolved into this model of the center and the four directions, an elegantly simple model used around the world, and these 6 powers that are in that. So we believe that wherever you stand is your center of power, and is your obligation and responsibility there to exercise your power, whether it's in your family, whether it's in the world, your community, and for the good of all. Certainly, we want you to exercise power in that way and to own it. Really own it. And this, I think, touches on your fear and shame and guilt thing. When people feel those things, they can't really exercise the power. So what we do is try to calm those things down so people can reach higher levels of power, pure power, for the good of all.
That's so
And
beautiful.
oh, you were saying, and how do we do that? We actually teach people tools that allow them to have these powers in their lives. Because people say, well, how do you get these powers? You don't just talk about them or read about them. You actually practice them. So we have different tools for each of the elements. For instance, to strengthen your core, which is obviously the center of who you are. Say all your values come from there. Your why for doing things. We give specific tools, and we can talk about some of those tools
We thought we
to
could
the
give
audience.
your
Yeah.
listen to some of the specific tools we use. Like, let's get to it. If there's anything we can do to make somebody's day better,
Yeah,
let's do
absolutely. Because
it.
so first of all, it's a remarkable thing in terms of building something, and because of your business experience, because of even your familial leadership role that you played, um, having this sense of empowerment, right? And being in a position of power, but recognizing your power. Not everybody recognizes their power, and not everybody recognizes that it's coming from within. So I'd love to get to the processes, but I'd like to dig a little bit more into this. What was the realization? Like, what led to understanding that there's a need to help people,
Mm.
and specifically not just helping them, but helping them from the inside out? What is the impetus? How did these realizations come to life to create where you are now?
I did a lot of studying about different our human archetypes. And so different ways we can be. We can be a warrior, or we can be a sage, or we can be an orphan, we can do all these things. And I focused in on the magician, the shaman, the healer. So our modality is very much from a ancient healing tradition. And the magician, this is the magician's favorite tool, the center in the four directions. If you go to Native Americans in America, that's their healing tool. You go to the alchemists in Europe, 5-element, acupuncture and acupressure. It's in the Congo. It's in the Mayas did their tempo with these kinds of measures. I mean, we are talking about a global archetype. So it's easy for everyone to understand, and it's so simple that if you're talking to kids, they get it very fast, faster than the CEOs. I'm just here to tell you, fast. They don't have any filters. They go, oh, that makes sense. And then they go and they do that. And we want them to know that this is their birthright. They are born with these powers. This is who they are. And yes, let's take that. Let's take their gifts from their core and bring it out into the world. And they're going to be happy, and they're not going to be crabby, and everyone's going to be happier as opposed to crabbier. So that's what the impetus was. So that model then grew into all kinds of methodologies. And when you're trying to take an archetype and make it like simple, that took years of work. And so we have taken it down to here's the step, here's the next step, here's the next step, here's the next step, here's the obstacles to get rid of it, so that anybody can walk through it. And it is our joy, isn't it? When we see our people bloom like this, it is our joy. I believe everyone out there listening has a piece of the puzzle that is going to heal the world. And I want you to have that for yourself, for your family, for your happiness, for the world. I mean, let's do it, right? Let's get on it.
Wow.
And also I might mention that the philosophy is also grounded in American pragmatism, which was a school of thought founded by Charles Sanders Peirce from Harvard. And it's actually the origination of TQM, total quality management. So it has those roots as well. Blended with the more spiritual, shamanistic. So it's a blending of the two worlds.
Wow. That is honestly like, where did you come from? Like, this is amazing. Wow, my mother identified, I think she wanted to be not her background. She didn't want to be a mixed person. She wanted to blend
Mm,
in. Um,
yeah.
so there was a lot of alienation of identity, and that's just what happens, right? When your identity is shamed in the masses, and in like in schools and so on by teachers, and how you're brought up, and all of that. So that's another reason why it's very important to me that I help people learn about feel empowered. And
Mhm.
this might tap in also. I'll go branching for a second too to the question in a minute, going back to Bonnie and your
Yeah, can I add?
inspiration. But yeah, please.
I just want to add something to that, because when we first went into the school systems, when someone brought me into school systems, I was going, oh, this stuff is too hard. It's too abstract. Kids are,
Complex or something.
yeah. And I was going, oh my God, these kids just running away with this stuff. But what we were so surprised by was that there was a reduction in racial tension, because the kids started looking at who they were as human beings, and in their little homerooms, in the groups that we taught, they became family. And so if the Hispanic kid is being picked on over here, or the girl is being picked on over there, the other members of their family took care of them. So we were so surprised by it, but it makes sense that when we really get into who we are, it's so acceptable. We are unique. We are acceptable to everyone. We don't have to worry about all the other craziness out there, right?
Well, and what you just described is that you're taught you're
Yeah.
taught how to connect. You're taught how to relate, to connect and value each other or not.
Yeah, they became family. And so all of a sudden we were going, oh my God, This was an unexpected and wonderful side effect, but the kind of thing that
Mm,
you're talking about, for someone to see her in her little group, your mother, as this wonderful person that she is, and then if anyone picks on her, they're in trouble, right?
mhm,
That would
mhm.
have been a nice thing for her to have had, for your family to
Yeah.
have.
Yes. And mostly it was actually the teachers
Oh,
at that
well.
time. It wasn't actually her friends, it was the teachers because she went to school only speaking Spanish at the time.
Uh,
And this was in the
Mm,
40s, so it was a while ago, right? But those, so
yeah.
her response to that was to not teach us Spanish.
ouch.
She's
My
like,
mother
I don't,
did the same with Hungarian. Yeah,
yeah,
she
she's
didn't
like, I don't
teach.
want you treated like a second class citizen in your own country.
So the diversity is all of these colors that we have and all of these weaving. And so it's so interesting. And that happened to you, and tell me your story. And all of a sudden, it's a wonderful way to interweave without any pressure.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just
Hmm.
very natural. The kids just got it.
Yeah. I think it's more natural than we might realize, but then there's something that we're not doing. What's missing? What is missing for people, including children, not just leaders? What's the core thing that's missing?
Core thing is really about the core, which is
Hmm.
that we don't take time to be quiet and to realize our gifts and that the gifts are valuable. We dismiss our gifts. We don't really pay attention to them. And this is a phenomenon that a lot of people have spoken about. So something that's easy for you is considered a gift. And so if I used to feel, Bonnie knows this story, I used to feel that anybody could do music. I was a natural born musician. Anybody can do music. And then I started teaching piano and went, uh-oh, I think I have a wrong assumption here. And then I started learning about different gifts that people have. So that's why you, the listener, need to look at what you bring to the world, what your gifts are. And if you look at that and you look at the need in the world, then a lot of things take care of themselves because your core has this impetus to be out in the world. It's needed. You see, so that's the way. And then, of course, you naturally lead because this is needed in the world. People,
And the other thing when you were saying, what's needed is for the core to come forward, and people can't do that because they don't take time to slow down, which is exactly what I had to do when I was Sharon's coachee. She actually just said, stop everything except your work and what's most important, like working out and eating well. Stop everything, and I don't want you to commit to anything. I was like, anything? But what about I'm on
yeah.
the board of this and I'm doing this and this? And she's like, nope, I don't want you to do any. I was like, really? And it was really super hard, but it made me hone in on what I'm really best at and made me able to focus and to really be present with the things I was working on instead of doing 30 million things all the time. And that was really invaluable. And that was a long time. It was probably 6 months or more.
Yeah, we are so encouraged to just run around like gerbils on a wheel, and all that white noise is making us ill. We can't, our gifts are not coming out. We're so clouded over. We're not thinking straight. We're blaming other people for our problems. All of this mishigas that goes up in the head is it goes away when you just, as I told Bonnie, you need to sit down and shut up. We need to have you not do anything else. Okay, am I clear? That's how we did. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
We really
So
well.
yeah, yeah. And so with this core and with this acknowledgement that all of us have gifts, that's a very beautiful and simple visual,
Yeah.
but that takes a level of maybe some people don't think they have gifts, but for whatever reason, right? And maybe there are people who would say, oh, well, what gifts does a prisoner have, right? And so I'm interested, Bonnie, in understanding what inspired you to work with inmates.
They're a population that's neglected, and I felt that they want it to be heard and they want it to be understood. and they wanted people to have faith in them again. And really, one of the things that inspired me was the woman who ran the program. I spoke with her and she said, they are the most grateful people in the world. And if anybody in that room ever tried to hurt you, all of them would be on top of that person. They are so protective of the teachers, of the class. And that really like touched me. And they said, nobody cares about us anymore. We're left behind. And so I said, what if I could be someone who has them bring their gifts out and has them be self-expressed, has them have confidence again? What would that be like? And that was a very moving experience.
I'll bet. I'll bet. There's a population. It was the most fulfilling job I ever had in my life, was working with a group of disabled students in college.
Mm,
And it was a very profound experience. I didn't have anyone in my family that identified or had any known disabilities, physical or cognitive. And I went to work with them. I was a college student myself, and I did it for about a year. And I tutored disabled students through the disabled students program. And like the prisoners, but without telling me,
mm,
right? Without, no one articulated what you just said, but the population of students, to be able to sit down one-on-one with each one and understand how they did their homework, why they were failing, what could help them learn this concept or principle, and help
mhm.
them pass a class they've tried multiple times but failed, and now it makes a difference between them getting their degree or not, or an advanced degree. And so that level of appreciation of a population of people left behind or not believed in, right, um, is deep. And it's not, and so what a beautiful articulation. So for different reasons, people may be left behind, left out, forgotten, ignored, or marginalized. And they still, as Sharon mentions, right, there's still people who have gifts.
Well, and they had innate leadership, which was really incredibly inspiring to me because there were some incredible stories in there. There were, I remember in one particular case, the correctional officer said, "Oh yeah, him. I remember him. He used to sweep the floor, dedicated as could be, clean as could be, didn't say a peep, primarily spoke Spanish, didn't really speak much English, and then." He had a friend help translate for him during the whole time. And at the end, he was getting up and acknowledging people and thanking them and saying, I want to acknowledge you for helping me through this class. And we're like, who is this guy? And he was like completely different person. And this is not an easy environment either. People don't want to be vulnerable in a prison. So it was really shocking. And then the other thing is we had people who were hadn't spoken to their sister in 10 years, or their mother in 10 years, and things like that. Forgiveness. They forgave themselves. So a lot came out of stepping into being a leader, and they did it through projects. So
Mhm.
we actually, in our coaching, we actually ask people to take on projects because it's who you become in doing the project.
It's
Right.
beautiful,
And
beautiful.
we also want it to return. We want them, this is not academic knowledge, and this is not just for you. This is for the world. So as you learn this, now we want you to apply it over here. What is your project? We're in the middle of that with our leadership group right now. So how are you making this real, and how are you making this for others? So we very much believe in the 7 generations philosophy of, when you heal yourself, when you're doing the balancing act work, you're healing 7 generations forward and backwards. And as Bonnie knows, I have the Seivert corollary, which is you're also touching every person in your world. So you're impacting it out this way with ripple effects. So we are relentless. We just insist that people put it to work for themselves and others, and then the benefits they get are multiplied.
Yes,
So I'm so blown away. and I have so many different
so much
thoughts.
There's so
Uh,
much simpatico between your work and ours that this deserves a
It,
continued conversations.
yeah,
All, yeah.
it does. It does. That would be amazing. And I would love for there to be conversation with Marina as well. There's something to be said with how people are taught and conditioned to not look within and blame others for their circumstances, blame others for their issues. It's very easy. And so share a little bit about what it looks like when you've seen people start to transform, because I've seen people transform as a learning and development person, and I have tremendous hope in people's potential. That's why I do what I do. And it sounds like you have that same experience. You witnessed a lot of transformation. But tell me a little bit about what it looks like when someone starts to shift from that blame game to the true ownership.
Yeah. Oh, it's both in the beginning, it's very frustrating. And because I've seen it so many times, I tell myself, Sharon, you need to breathe. They'll get there. You just need to breathe. We're going to give them a couple exercises. They will get there. Okay. And it is, people come in, because they're in pain. And so when they're in pain, when they're in the middle of that pain and they've just lost their job and things are horrible, or on and on, we have to let them process that while we give them tools to heal and to heal and to heal. So we move them immediately into self-healing tools. So that anger they have, the frustration they have, the hopelessness they have starts to soften. It starts to be less and less. And then we turn them in pragmatic ways, as Bonnie was talking about, into now, what are we going to do? So that didn't work real well for you. So what can we do instead? Or this worked great. So let's repeat it and leverage it. And so we are, from as soon as we can get a little bit of a grip, we are moving them into pragmatic change of their lives with all the compassion of, yeah, I've been there. Yeah, that really is crappy. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Your boss is a jerk. But what are we going to do with that? Now that we have to move on, what are we going to do about that? We don't want to stay here. It's that whole thing about I don't want you to stay in your suffering. So how do we move out of it? I want you to feel better as soon as possible. So here's some of the things that we can do. So getting them into their core is a beautiful place, because when you're in that quiet place, there's no fear. There's no shame. There's no blame. There's only the quiet, and you're comfortable there. And then you have a taste of it. You have a taste of what your life is. You have a taste of what that happiness is. And it's away from all the external circumstances. So we're moving right inside where they can be at peace.
And I heard you say that, I mean, my own translation is there's learning by doing.
Yes, totally.
And you're not just reading something and thinking about it, you're actually doing something. Learning by doing and being active is a way of learning. Of course, storytelling is part of our learning that's ancient, but so is the practice, the application. The doing is actually the skill building part. You can't just read about swimming and become a great swimmer. You have to actually swim. Um, so
Yeah, we
that's
are
that's
big
beautiful.
on action. Would you say, Bonnie? I think we are just really,
Well, what I was going to say, the biggest thing that I notice when people are transforming is they become much more proactive. Like
Mm.
I just started working with a client 2 weeks ago, and her biggest thing was, I haven't done anything in 10 years, and I feel like I'm stuck in a spot. And literally, she already applied for a job and got an interview for it. So you start seeing people's possibilities change. They start saying, like, not could I ever, but when can I, type of thing. And so the language starts shifting as well, and the activity starts shifting. And also, because we hold them to task, we say, this is what we expect you to do next week. Fill out this assessment. We're going to talk about it, and you're going to have deliverables. You're going to have a project to do, and it's going to be your personal project. So whatever that looks like, it's not about like echoing and mirroring them and saying, yeah, I get all that, but yeah, and as Sharon said, what about this? And so what actions are you going to take?
It's so interesting too, because I think about there are a lot of people who have pursued since COVID mental health support. And then I looked
Mhm.
up the efficacy, and I can't remember, so I'll have to double check my numbers here, but the efficacy of talk therapy only being about 50% effective. And Sharon, maybe you can keep me honest if that sounds about right.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think it's actually less. The talk therapy might be actually a little bit less. One of the things about American pragmatism is that it really holds your feet to the fire and it makes you get results. And that's really our heritage. So we're not interested in your childhood. I mean, tell us about it if you want. It's very nice. But really what we are about today is today you are in pain. And you are needing that paycheck, and how do we get you to where you need to go? And so we move them from the inside out. This identity, there's some recent research about when someone changes their identity or they expand their identity, that very quickly beliefs follow, very quickly skills are developed, very quickly behavior starts to change. So I really believe in our experiences that we're really onto something. Now, we know that people will get effective change with our methodology.
Yes. Yes. Well, and you've seen it, and that's right. That's the evidence. What I'm hearing you ultimately say is that you're helping people discover what's within, quiet down what's distracting them, frankly, focus on the future and focus on what's inside of themselves to bring forward the future that they can envision and maybe see things in a different light, but sort of clearing away what's getting in the way of them being able to envision the future and take action on it now. And it reminds me a little bit of, so when I was studying for my background's in communication, social science, and the the thing that probably gave me the most hope that I've ever had in one moment was when I was learning about systems theory and communication, and that in a dynamic of a family uh, and or a relationship, changing one component, one person in that system, and one approach within that system can change the whole system.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And that is a lot of hope. And that's why we say, wherever you stand, you are exercising leadership power. So you making those changes in your organization or in your family will have the kind of impact that you are talking about. Absolutely. That's why we want people to own their power, because hello, you can do this. You really can. Look at these other people over here that have done it, all of our people and that. So when people talk about change, I like to quote Alan Deutschman, who did Change or Die. Do you know his work? It's really brilliant work. And what he said is that people will not change with fear, facts, or force. The three F's. They will not change. So your spouse comes back from the hospital, he's had bypass surgery, and for 2 weeks he doesn't eat steak, and then all of a sudden he's back to his old habits, right? Because the facts from the doctor don't work, the fear of God that you're trying to put in him doesn't work, he's eating outside the house, on and on and on. And what he did find worked is to reframe the problem. So this is what happens in AA. When people go into AA, I'm an alcoholic, they think about themselves differently. Reframe, reflect, so relate differently to different people, okay? And then repeat the behaviors. And our methodology has those 3 steps inside our 6. And he said that whereas people would only 1 in 9 would change permanently, even if they were told they would die, with our methodology, with his methodology, it's over 90% that people
Wow.
have a lasting change.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I have to just say, as a person who spent their career working with people who needed to create change within how they worked primarily, um, change is not easy to do from the outside in. It is an inside out job, and you have to want it and you have to decide. And it sounds remarkable. And so I'd love to leave people with some resources. So if there's anything that you would recommend for people to perhaps start learning about this, is there a book, a website? What can people look to learn a little bit more?
So we have my books, the Superpower of Balance books, and since we're talking about leadership, the most recent book is the Superpower of Balanced Leadership in Unbalanced Times, and they can get that on Amazon, and it's an audiobook too. And audiobook, ebook, and print. And then we have the other books in the series. Bonnie, why don't you tell them about our website? We have lots of free resources for people on the website, and we have a community event. Why don't you tell them about that?
Yes, so we have our website, corecoachingconsulting.com, and we have all our products available there, and including 2-hour courses on stress management, productivity, and procrastination. And then we also have a it's called the Core Community, and it's with our sister organization, Core Learning Services. And we offer once a month free seminars online it's really lunchtime Eastern time.
We also have a community page on corecoachingconsulting.com. We have free reports. If you want a free leader report, you can go there. If you want a free career report, you can go into those pages on the site. And we have a blog and our YouTube channel. Help yourself to all of our resources. Just indulge. Go right ahead.
Wow. That's remarkable. I'm so excited to dig in as well for myself and hope that people take advantage of this incredible opportunity to learn more. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about that I didn't tap
Yeah,
into?
I'd like to talk about a few tools that people can use.
Okay.
Um, you know, you were talking about fear, shame, and guilt as being a core theme of your work, and obviously that's a core theme of ours because it's often what stops people from achieving things in their lives. So we have a couple of really great tools that we um, recommend to people. One of them is the Ho'oponopono. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but
Yes.
it's a Hawaiian tradition, and it's really great because I know that we all have people in our lives who we maybe limit time with, and we have boundaries with them, and then we feel guilt and shame about not having them in their lives. But actually, we're doing ourselves a favor and them a favor as well. So with the Ho'oponopono, we can actually send them blessings without actually being in their physical company. And the way that you do this is you bring the person to mind and you say, I'm sorry.
Silently.
Silently, you say it to yourself. Yes, please. Thank you for reminding me. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And what that does is it really acknowledges that part of yourself that might be just like them in some certain way. And it's an acknowledgement that you still care about them and want to bless them. It worked really well for me with a friend in particular that I am not in touch with very much anymore. And we were very close at one time because the situation was just had too much drama for me. And so that was my way of sending this person blessings and love without physically being in contact. The other one I wanted to mention, Sharon, was the red light, green light, yellow light, if you want to take that.
Sure. This is one I use with the kids and everything, but what Bonnie and I are trying to do right now is give your people something really practical to walk away with. And we know that a huge part of the fear and the guilt and the shame can be exacerbated if you're in the wrong company. So this is why sometimes you have to separate yourself. If you're in a drama thing with someone, every time you get together, you actually feel worse, but you feel more justified in the way you feel, right? So sometimes it's best to step back and do the blessing, the Ho'oponopono also. And how to know whether or not you should be hanging out with someone. We do something that the kids love, and I do it with my adults too. is green light, yellow light, red light. So we want people to discern whether this is a green light person for you. If you're not quite sure, it might be a yellow light, and this person is definitely a red light. And what we found in teaching the kids is that we felt that we increased their safety. Because if someone comes up to you, opens the car doors and says, hey, your dad sent me to pick you up, they have that red light, they can walk away. So we teach children how to obey authority, and predators, of course, take up on that. People in our offices who are gaslighting us or being mean, we can start looking at, are they green light, yellow light, or red light? I was doing this with someone today, said, I think maybe this guy is an orange light. I mean, he's I'm not quite sure if I'm putting him in red yet, but I think he's orange. So those are really simple concepts that people can do to choose your company better. We don't want you isolated, because that's going to have problems for you, but we do want you to heal yourself. Make sure you're in good company, because that will lift up your power. That will lift up your health. Okay?
Beautiful. The awareness of who's around us, right?
Yes.
And so while it starts an inside job, who is around us does impact us. And I truly believe, and I say this from time to time, that we need each other more than we realize. And at the same time, who that is that's around us is important. And I also think that sometimes people can make mistakes. And so, how we recover from mistakes and repair relationships, or make up for the things that we've, um, done to hurt others, and vice versa. That forgiveness, and as you said, Bonnie, with the Ho'oponopono, there is this acknowledgement that maybe you do that from a distance, maybe you do it with that person together, but forgiveness definitely plays a part in how we choose to maintain the relationships with people where we may have experienced incredible fear, shame, or guilt or pain. And I love the idea of proactively deciding and deciding who should we be around, thinking about it proactively. So it sounds like when you are living more in your core, you're paying attention to who you are, what your gifts are, and what or who you should be around that also helps you perhaps live more in your gifts. Is that a good summary?
Absolutely. That's absolutely perfect. Yes, we want these people to support you and uplift you, and you do the same for them. And then these gifts can be given to the world and multiplied and help so many more. Yes. So that's exactly it. Yes. You nailed it.
Well, I've had two great
Right.
teachers. And there's such, like you said, alignment between what you're about, what you're focused on, and your work. And, there's a lot to be said for us believing in ourselves. And that's one of the things that I also talk about in our channel is to remember to not just be here, but to go into your body and feel what is in your heart and your gut. Listen to your body more. And I just have tremendous respect for the work that you're doing. And I'm so honored that you would spend time with us and share more of your message with our listeners. So thank you for sharing those resources and your beautiful path. Um, I know if Marina would hear, she would probably kick some tires and dig in a little bit more. So maybe we can have another conversation where we are able to do that again. It would be an honor to do that.
You
And
name the place and the time, and we're there. What'd you say, Bonnie? Right? We can.
Certainly.
wonderful, wonderful. Well, I'm sure that would mean a lot to Marina, and I know it would give another flavor to it. So we'll see how that goes, and I'll bring it up to Marina. And I'll wrap it up with a question that I like to ask our catalysts. And that question is, if you were to whisper one thing to the fear that creeps up in your mind, what would you whisper?
I would say it's just a story. It's not true.
Thank you.
I would say it's time to be quiet.
Wow. It's such a simple yet profound and powerful message that you're sharing. I can't even begin to convey the depth of gratitude, but I'll try. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This is incredible. And I really appreciate your time, your insights, and like me and Marina, I can feel the love and support you intend to share with the world, and I'm grateful for you and all that you're doing to help everyone that you are, and I'm sure there's much more goodness to do. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for connecting with us.
And right back at ya, as we would say.
And thank you for giving us the opportunity to connect with your audience and for being such a wonderful host and so present to what we're up to.
Well, we hope that you enjoyed this conversation. What an incredible way to think of leadership, and not something that's just a job, but maybe our life's calling. And I'm incredibly grateful for both of our catalysts today. And in the meantime, we send you empowerment, support, and love.